year have to be Duval County small businesses and have to have fewer than 100 employees, and also have had to lost 25% of their revenue since the COVID-19 issue started, and we all had to kind of get in lockdowns.
All the full text of the legislation just a short while ago today. It does have that indirect aid for schools, but it does not have the several $100 billion in direct aid for states and cities that Democrats want. So that is missing from this bill. And I think it's an open question whether we're likely to see a further stimulus bill in 2021 that might provide that. It really is going to come down to whether Republicans or Democrats control the Senate after those two.
A new update on the fourth round of stimulus checks is here. The lawmakers, everybody have announced that there is a new deadline that Americans have to take action by in order to receive a $500 stimulus check. The deadline is coming in just a few days, so make sure to watch until the end. Here are some important news. There is only 1 week left for Virginia residents to file their taxes in order to receive a tax rebate of up to $500. The taxpayers will get a rebate of up to $250 for individual filers and $500 for joint filers, so long as they received a tax liability for their taxes. According to the Virginia Department of Taxation, the Commission defines a tax liability as the amount of money owed in taxes minus any tax credits or deductions. The governor has touted the bill. He stated as Virginians face high inflation and high prices coming from policies set in Washington. These one-time tax rebates will help families lower the cost of living. Past administrations have overtaxed Virginians, and by returning taxpayer money to taxpayers' accounts, we are ensuring that hardworking people in Virginia get the money they need. The state's online portal for the rebates opened on September 19th, with eligible residents who filed their 2021 taxes by September 5th, set to receive the rebates by the end of this month. There are 3.2 million taxpayers in Virginia who are eligible for the tax rebates. The rebates will be delivered to eligible people by direct deposit or paper check to those who file their 2021 taxes by November 1st. And the officials have clarified that the rebate will be used to fulfill any outstanding debt to certain government agencies or departments before given to people. And the U.S. consumer confidence fell in October to the lowest level since July, as high borrowing costs and soaring inflation take their toll on household budgets. According to data released today, the consumer confidence index slumped to 102 from a revised 107 in September. Economists were expecting a rating of 106.5, a reading above 100 signals that consumers have an optimistic attitude toward the economy. So consumer spending, everybody, which drives the U.S. economy, has remained strong since the start of the crisis, with high levels of goods purchasing during lockdowns, followed by robust spending on travel and dining once restrictions were lifted. But a global imbalance of supply and demand led to the current bout of decades-high inflation in the United States, which the Federal Reserve is trying to bring down through a series of jumbo-sized rate hikes, and that has turned and pushed up borrowing costs, adding to overall higher expenses for consumers, some of whom have already begun to rein in their spending. One economist told CNN News this week, notably concerns about inflation picked up again, with both gas and food prices serving as main drivers. Looking ahead, inflationary pressures will continue to pose strong headwinds to consumer confidence and spending, which could result in a challenging holiday season for retailers. Consumer-level optimism dimmed for not only the current economic period, but also what could come next for the next several months. Consumers also said they feel more pessimistic about the labor market, with a lower share of respondents saying they believe jobs are plentiful. And while the job market has remained robust throughout much of this year and 2021, there have been some signs of cooling. In terms of big-ticket items, survey respondents said they plan to spend less on travel over the next 6 months, but reported higher intentions to buy homes, appliances, and cars. Now, the latest CPI report also showed that inflation had seeped more fully into the services sector, where prices and price hikes are harder to fall. Stubbornly high inflation has prompted the Federal Reserve to take aggressive action, raising its benchmark interest rate by 3.25 percentage points in 6 months. And prices started to skyrocket early in 2021 and have hovered around 40-year highs for the past several months. In September, the CPI index, which measures the change in prices, was also 8.2% higher than the previous 12 months before. As we can see, President Biden should definitely do more for the American people and send out stimulus payments.
With spending more than the government brings in, the government simply prints itself more money. Like a child stricken with affluenza, rather than being cut off, the government simply helps itself to more money. It doesn't take long to lose the value of a dollar when you're not spending your own money. Government is no different. While hardworking Americans pinch pennies, lawmakers spend carelessly. To pay for their next project, they threaten to raise taxes. When they don't have the support to raise taxes, they nevertheless continue to spend and drive up inflation. Inflation is nothing but an invisible tax on the people. A tax on the people that, I would add, disproportionately affects hardworking Americans, poor and middle-class Americans. Sometimes the wealthiest of the wealthy can find ways to get even wealthier in times of inflation. Everyone else gets hurt. With no action, the reckless spending will drive us off a financial cliff. But our spending trajectory is such that we cannot afford to wait for the consensus needed to pass a constitutional amendment. While hardworking Americans wait, I've introduced the Preventing Runaway Inflation and Consumer Expenditures Act, or the PRICE Act, to stop the bleeding. The PRICE Act requires a 3/5 supermajority of senators to approve new spending measures when the nation's inflation rate is at or above 3%. The PRICE Act is desperately needed.
Yes, but again, I'm reluctant to get into an issue that we're not climate policymakers. Yeah. We don't have to weigh these decisions as you do. It's really a question for elected officials.
Regarding the president, how much higher could the interest rate go? What does the worst case scenario look like?
How much higher could the interest rate go?
Yeah.
So, no higher than it needs to go, but we think.
But what's the worst case scenario?
I wouldn't say worst case, but I'll tell you what I think. The point is to get. We think that first of all, financial conditions.
Some changes have been made by the IRS. Relief programs have been updated with new eligibility requirements in order to receive extra stimulus money. The low-income households are now able to apply for $500 checks. And now, motorists getting ready for the 4th of July are feeling a little relief as the nation's average gas price continues to fall. But the looming hurricane season may cause more pain at the pump. Gas Buddy reports the nation's average gas price has declined for the second week in a row. Data from more than 150,000 gas stations shows the price fell 8.8 cents to $4.88. However, prices remain more than $1 high than they were at the same time in 2021. The AAA reports show Indiana saw one of the largest weekly decreases in gas prices in the nation, down 12 weeks from week to week. According to AAA, the average price of a gallon of gas as of June 27th in Indiana is $5.01. In comparison, at this time last year, the average gas price was $3.12. While gas prices may continue to fall the other week, experts warn that any sudden jolts could cause a turnaround. He provided the example of when the peak of a hurricane season arrives. We could see a spike at the pump. The AAA reports a drop in the global price of oil contributed to the decrease in gas prices. Fears of a potential global recession